In the last chapter, we talked about judgment and decision making under high consumer effort. This chapter focuses more on judgment and decision making under low consumer effort. These two distinct approaches correspond generally with Nobel-winning Prize Danny Kahneman's two approaches to thinking and decision making. First, System 1, judgment and decision making under low consumer effort, is fast, intuitive, and emotional, whereas System 2 is slow, conscious, and effortful, corresponding with judgment and decision making under high effort. In case you're interested, I've linked out here to one of Danny Kahneman's pages. Let's toggle over now. You can see this is Danny Kahneman's Fast and Slow Thinking Explained. He actually has a book on the topic. But down below, quick overview of System 1 and System 2 thinking. Again, fast, unconscious, automatic, and effortless, and makes 98% of all of our thinking. So this is the way we operate most of the time. On the other hand, System 2 is slow, effortful, people are self-aware, and it's really only about 2% of our thinking. So it's obviously important to understand System 2 thinking because it is under this process where people make very costly decisions, things like buying cars. But it's also important to understand System 1 thinking since this is what is prevalent in most of our lives. In case you're interested, feel free to read a little bit more about System 1 and System 2 thinking. It's actually very interesting, and you'll probably find it relevant given it shapes your own consumer behavior. So we leave here with the topic of shortcuts and go back over to our lecture here in Canvas. So again, most often we are using System 1 thinking, which relies on simplifying strategies called heuristics. It's another word for rule of thumb or a shortcut. In the Cialdini book, all of these different rules, liking, reciprocity, commitment, and consistency, rely on these types of shortcuts. They're just different types of shortcut rules. Habit is another important shortcut that we use to simplify our lives. So much of our daily existence is simplified by habit. We wake up, we have our routines, we eat the same thing, we buy the same thing at the grocery store, and it's estimated that 45% of our daily behavior is habitual. Now, this is actually, rather than boring, really important because when things become automatic, they make us more efficient. If we had to decide every single day, all right, which route am I going to take to the grocery store or to school, that would impose a cognitive load that would take away from our ability to focus on other things. In a marketing context, for low-involvement products like toothpaste, consumers keep on buying the same one they use without giving much thought to the decision, as long as they don't feel dissatisfied. So there might be something that prompts people to shift away from their initial habit that makes the thinking about it more conscious. So trying a toothpaste, being disappointed, thinking, I need to try another brand. At that point, the consumer might engage in more effortful processing, but then that purchase too may eventually become habitual. The best predictor of what people are going to do in the future, and that pertains to consumer decisions, is what they have done in the past. So if you want to predict people's future orders at a restaurant or purchases of different kinds of even cars, you can look at what people have done in the past. Marketers invest substantial effort into getting consumers to form new habits because once people form this habit, they continue on and on with it. It's also important for marketers to understand when new habits are formed. So this happens during periods of transition. Think about yourself. When you were maybe moving, coming to college, you had to find a new place to live, you might have formed a series of new habits. Or maybe you moved with your family when you were young and had to find new stores, and consequently, new purchase patterns might emerge. Let's now watch this video on how Target uses understanding of consumer behavior to shape purchases in stores.
Did you know that by studying shoppers' habits, companies can predict what you want to buy? And sometimes that's a problem. A few years ago, for instance, a father walked into a Target store in Minnesota, clutching an advertisement. He started yelling at the manager. "Did you send this to my daughter?" he asked. The ad contained all these coupons for baby clothes and bottles and formula and cribs. She's still in high school and you're sending her ads for baby clothes, he screamed at the manager. Are you trying to encourage her to get pregnant? The store manager apologized and a few days later called the guy to apologize again. The father was somewhat abashed. It turns out there's been some activities in my house that I wasn't aware of, he told the manager. I had a long conversation with my daughter. She's due in August. It turns out I owe you an apology. Target had created a computer model that could figure out which shoppers were pregnant just by studying their shopping habits. Identifying pregnant women is the holy grail of retail. People with new babies are so tired that if you can get them inside your doors to buy bottles and formula, they'll end up buying everything else they need as well. And if a new parent starts shopping at Target, they'll keep coming back for years. So how did Target start marketing to parents before the baby arrived? Lots of people buy lotion, but a Target data analyst noticed that women on Target's baby registry started buying very large quantities of lotion in about their second trimester. Someone else noticed that in about their 20th week, pregnant women started loading up on vitamins. By crawling through the data, Target was able to identify about 25 different items that, when analyzed together, would allow them to predict if someone was pregnant. Target's program was so accurate that it could assign almost any regular shopper a pregnancy prediction score. But the problem with all this data, as the father in Minnesota demonstrated, is that Target couldn't let on how much they knew. After all, shoppers might get a little bit upset if they received an advertisement making it clear that Target was studying their reproductive plans. So how did Target solve this problem? They started mixing in ads for bottles and formula with other products that had nothing to do with pregnancy, like lawnmowers and wine glasses, things that they knew a pregnant woman wouldn't necessarily be interested in. As a result, the baby ads looked random, and it worked. Women started using the coupons, and Target's mom and baby sales exploded. The lesson? Habits matter, and we can either choose to shape our habits ourselves, or we can wait till someone else shapes them for us.
So this is a bit of a cautionary tale about how marketers can use their understanding of consumer patterns to influence our habits outside of our conscious awareness. But it's still a powerful example of when people are in states of flux. For instance, when they're about to have a baby, when people get married. These are prime contexts in which marketers can reach out and try to form relationships with consumers because they're more likely to create new habits in those times. When else might consumers be ripe for targeting based on openness to forming new habits beyond having a baby? Take a minute and think about that. As I mentioned before, moving to a new place, getting a divorce or getting married, starting a job, or changing a job, these are all situations which involve huge life changes with new needs in which consumers are operating more on a cognitive, effortful basis rather than a habitual basis. So it's best for marketers to target them at this point rather than when they are already locked into autopilot mode. Okay, so moving along. Some business models are conducive to forming habits, like mail order or subscription models. You might have noticed this in your purchase behavior. If you sign up for something like, say, the Apple Music subscription, and then you might notice when you look back over your bill, a recurring charge for it, and you forgot that you'd even signed up for it. So they make it very easy for people to continue to consume products, or at least pay for them anyway. One example of this in the United States that you might have heard of is Dollar Shave Club, which sells a subscription for razor cartridges. Before this existed, men would go to the store and buy razor blades in shops just when they needed them. This was most likely to be predicted by brand loyalty. And what would happen is that organizations, businesses would sell the razor cheaply, the handle, and it only fit one of the cartridges. And this is commonly what we see with printers, where businesses will sell printers cheaply, but the ink is what's expensive and what you have to continually go out and buy. Dollar Shave Club works really well because rather than relying on people going to the store to buy the razors, they're delivered to people's homes. over and over again. I'm going to play a Dollar Shave Club ad in case you're not familiar with this business. People like this ad, but I do want to make the point that great ad campaigns can capture attention and influence brand equity, so they're important. But unless they change what people do, then it doesn't help the bottom line in terms of getting people to buy the product.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, pop-up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jujitsu, and drive like a gangster when I'm coming.
So in addition to being entertaining, this ad really underscores the point of forgetting. Stop forgetting to buy your razors, sign up for the subscription model, and they'll show up every month. Okay, moving along to the framing effect. This is a well-known heuristic where information that is exactly the same has a different effect depending on the way it's presented. So information can be more or less attractive depending on the features that are highlighted. So for instance, people tend to avoid risks when information is presented as a gain and seek risks or chances or gambles when faced with a loss. So for example, imagine you have to vote to support a policy or a vaccine in which under Program A, it saves 200 lives. Under Program B, there's a 33% of saving 600 people and 66% of saving no one. So these things are actually functionally equivalent. But when presented with this decision scenario, people prefer the certain thing of saving 200 lives. Similarly, here we've got a negative frame. So under this program, 400 people will definitely die. People can choose that. Or there will be a 33% chance that nobody will die, or 66 probability that all 600 will die. And under this circumstance, people will choose Program B. This is because when it comes to framing things as losses, people tend to be more risk-seeking. They'll take the chance that everyone will die or no one will die, rather than accepting a certainty that the 400 people will die. Now, this might sound a little bit morbid, and you wonder, how is this related to marketing? Well, this can be used in several ways, such as highlighting certain attributes. So, for instance, frozen yogurt contains 10% fat versus 90% fat-free. People tend to like this type of framing, which you see actually more in the field. Relatedly, there is something called the decoy effect, in which presenting two options, people might typically choose one when presented with this decision frame. So, oh wow, $30 is expensive, so I'm going to go with the $10 bottle. But if you add a new option to the consideration set that you don't think anyone's going to buy, so adding a new $50 bottle to this consideration set, suddenly the $30 bottle looks reasonable and people are more likely to purchase it. So the decoy effect is merely adding a product that you don't think anyone's going to buy to shift the way the decision is framed, so that the more expensive option here looks more reasonable here. And we can also see the framing effect in the context of pricing information. So the rule of 100 says that when a price is under 100, discounts that take the form of percentage seem larger than discounts that take the absolute form, the dollar value form. But when we're talking about numbers that are over 100, the opposite thing is true. So the absolute discount, the dollar price, seems bigger than the percentage ones. So let's take a look here where we've got a price that's from $25 reduced down to $15. Here, 40% seems bigger than $10 off. But here we've got a situation where the numbers are over 100, and so 2,500 reduced to 2,250. Here, $250 off seems larger than 10%. So when it comes to creating discounts, in order to leverage the framing of the rule of 100, choose whichever number is bigger, basically.